most important part for any MBA entrance examination is mock. If you are giving mocks, you just even if you do not prepare very much, but you give a lots of mocks, that is going to ultimately be the key to your success. Apart from that, it is not just about giving the mocks, it is about analyzing where I went wrong after each and every mock. That is exactly what helped me ace almost most of my management entrance examinations. Apart from that, I focused not just on my weak subject, but also on my strong one. Because the weak subject, sure, you need to focus on that to clear your cutoffs. But the strong one is the one which will help you, hike your percentile. Like if you want a high percentile, you will need to focus on your strong one and make it very good. Apart from that, this is something which I followed and I learned it in the initial days of my preparation. Never dwell on one question for a long time. This is the mistake I used to make when I started preparing in July. So what I used to do was, if I used to get stuck in a question, I used to spend the entire day in it. But then I realized that I have time crunch, and I was also in my seventh semester that time. So I had to prepare for my class exams as well. So I realized that if I do this, this is not going to land me anywhere. And that is when I decided that if I cannot solve a question, I'll try. I'll try for some time. If I cannot do it, fine. I'll go and I'll look at the solution. Even if then I cannot do it, I'm gonna leave the question, because of so many questions, the probability of getting that one particular question is very less. So it's better to leave that question aside. Maybe if I once I've completed the chapter, I would try that question again. That maybe I can solve it now. If I can solve it, well and good, or else I'll keep it aside. Apart from that, I followed a process, since I had very less time. And so I followed a process of converging the syllabus and not spreading it. I tried to make the syllabus as concise as possible so that I can finish it off in a specific time. And because the more I would have spread it, the more difficult it would have been for me to cover each and every topic. So I just used to do specific portions of each and every topic and then move on. This is something I started analyzing when I started giving mocks. Never dwell on a difficult question for too long. Initially, I used to have this problem with my speed. So what used to happen was that when I was trying to solve the questions, I used to see that I've solved 5 questions and my time's up, like 40 minutes and only 5 questions. That is when I realized that my problem was that I could see a question and I knew it's a difficult or a lengthy question, and I used to think that I have to solve it because I have solved it. But that is not always true. We need to remember that there are always, in any section, there are almost, if luck is good, you might even have 40% or at least 25 to 30% easy and very easy questions. We always have, and these are the ones which help us clear the cutoff. And so that is why later on, when I started like analyzing my mocks, I started realizing that we just I need to stop dwelling on a difficult question for too long and instead focus on the easy and very easy questions. I need to select the questions because they are the ones which will help me clear the cutoff first. Now, talking about sectional preparation strategies for VARC, it's nothing. You just need to read anything. Majority of us are told that you need to read newspapers, editorials, magazines. Not necessary. I used to read them, sure, but you do not need to focus on a specific newspaper. Read anything. Read any article you write. You like, only it should not be written in a rhyming language or like the texting language. It should be written in a way that it should be written in a good English. Like I used to read online uh, what to say, like articles, newspaper articles, which I used to get on social media sites. I used to read the Wire, the Print, the New York Times. And apart from that, a lot of my friends, they did not like reading newspapers. They also read different things. Even I myself, I am a huge fan of classics, particularly Jane Austen. So I used to reread those books. And I am not gonna lie, it's not just reading specific newspapers or boring articles, but it's whatever you like. It helps you enhance your VARC reading capabilities and also your vocabulary to an extent. Apart from reading, writing also helps. So this was something which I realized in August end maybe. whatever I used to read, I used to form an opinion about it. Any article or whatever it used to be, it also used to be stories. Like, I'll give you an instance. Say I read the book Pride and Prejudice by Jane Austen, and I realized that the protagonist was a feminist and she was way ahead of her times. So what I did was I summarized it and I wrote it on my blog. You do not need to write it just on your blog. You can also write it in a diary or anywhere you want. So, and that is when I realized, it clicked, that the best way to further enhance my reading skills is to write about it, to form an opinion about what I read, to summarize what I read, and to write about it. Because so what happens, at times we are unable to find words for expressing ourselves. That is when we'll go and search for it in the dictionary, or let's say we'll Google it. So that way we'll come across a lot of new words, and it'll improve our grammar as well. It'll improve our vocabulary, and finally it'll also improve our reading skills, because we'll be reading with a lot of, we'll be focusing on the reading, and we'll be reading finely, as in we'll be reading clearly between the lines. So that helped a lot, like writing. Apart from that, we can practice timed reading. Like, we can count the number of words in the passage. Like, this is what I did. I used to count the number of words in the passage, and I used to take a stopwatch, and I used to read. And then what I did was, I would just skim through the passage. I won't reread the lines, because rereading the lines takes up a lot of time. So what I used to do was, I used to skim through the passage, and I used to write 4 to 5 lines summary about what I understood from the passage. And then I used to reread it again to see what points I missed and why I missed it. This also helped me a lot. Apart from that, we need to practice a little bit of grammar for verbal ability questions like rearrangements. For that, any standard grammar book is enough. For vocabulary, again, reading is going to solve all of our woes, and also writing. Coming to the strategies for quants preparation, speed maths was the key for me to at least crack this section, and also DI. So speed maths, when I started preparing in July, I gave almost a month simply to enhance my speed in maths. I was a BTech student, and we were given calculators right from our first year. So even for 2+2, we had this habit of using a calculator. So I took a lot of time to, grasp the concepts of speed maths and practice those sums. Now, it took me almost a month, but I am not gonna lie, this was the section which helped me further prepare better for other sections of quants. Apart from that, I avoided practicing a large number of similar type of questions, because see, whatever we're doing over here, this is already something which we have studied already in class 9th and 11th and 12th. So we do not need to practice. If you've understood the type of question, you can just move forward. We do not need to practice the same type of questions, because it's just doing nothing, taking up a lot of our time. I used to focus on any type of material which had a large variety of questions, but not a very huge quantity. And I tried to most importantly, I tried to solve large numbers of easy and moderate level questions, and not waste a lot of time over difficult questions. Difficult questions, I usually kept it for the last. What I used to do was, the easy and moderate level questions, wherever I used to get them, I still remember I had my class 5th and 6th books. I even used to search for them for easy and moderate questions, and I used to solve them, because I knew that this is going to be enough for at least clearing the cutoffs. And after that, when I used to have time, I used to move over to the difficult questions, and again, I preferred not dwelling over them, because it would take up a lot of my time. And mostly after solving the moderate level questions, we're done with 60% of the section. Let's say 25 questions are there, will be easily be able to solve around 15 to 18 questions. So I knew that even if I'm able to solve accurately 15 to 18 questions, it will give me a fair enough percentile. Apart from that, some of the major areas which helped me maximize my score in quants was profit and loss, time and work, as well as time and distance. And also, this is a chapter which I don't think like my fellow mates practiced a lot, but I observed this. I gave a lot of management entrance exams, and in all of these entrance exams, I saw one question or two questions from this chapter, which always used to be of very easy level. But I I'll be honest with you, when I was preparing for quants, I always focused on profit and loss, time and distance, and even probably permutation and combination, but I never focused on this chapter. But when I encountered the questions, I realized that the question from this chapter was like brownie points. And the chapter, you won't believe, it was functions. It really helped me, get one question for free, like as brownie point in each and every of like entrance exam which I encountered in the past 2 months. Apart from that, if I talk about my DILR preparation in data interpretation, so this section will again will be a savior if we practice speed maths. And this section will not need much, only practice and practicing mocks, either sectional mocks or full length tests. And apart from that, speed maths is gonna be enough for this section. But for logical reasoning, we need to attempt and encounter a large number of different types of questions. So for that, we can refer to previous papers, study materials, etc. Now, because see what happens is in logical reasoning, the questions can be of any type. They can mix up data interpretation in the LR section, or they can mix up, they can give you any type of questions. Like the element of surprise is very much. So the greater the variety, or the greater the number of questions we have encountered, the lesser are the chances of encountering an element of surprise in the actual exam. And once we are comfortable with the LR section, DILR section will be a cakewalk. So, and over here, one more thing is, when I initially started practicing the LR section, what happened was, I used to solve, let's say in 2 hours, I was able to solve only 4 questions. It's fine. It's absolutely fine, because here persistence is the key. Initially, 4 questions, 5 questions, done. But slowly you'll realize that after a month, you're able to solve 10 questions in 2 hours. And that is what is the key. You need to continue, and you need to keep solving those questions. Apart from that, solving together in groups helps during the initial phase of preparations. Apart from that, one more thing which I experienced, at least for the logical reasoning section, was that we should avoid looking at the solutions. Once we look at so what happens is, logical reasoning, it is not necessary that the approach we are following for solving a question will be similar to the approach the person who's given the question will be. The person's approach might be different than ours. So in that in that case, so what happens is, let's say my approach of solving a question is different, but the question gets solved, right? And in a specific amount of time. So what happens is, I'll try and solve more and more questions by the same approach. So I am developing my own method of solving questions in that way. So I feel that is very important, because you will not encounter the same kind of questions in the actual examination. There we will have to think of an approach, and this helps open our minds. That is why I always refrained from looking at the solution approach or the way they had solved the problems, particularly in the logical reasoning section. Coming to the decision making section. Now, this is a section unique only for XAT. So in this, there's not much. Like, I know a lot of people fuss regarding this section a lot, that they have unpredictable questions. No, it's not true. They don't have unpredictable questions. Any normal individual who is pursuing or who has done their graduation can solve this question. The only thing we need to have is, we need to have that sense of ethics and moral fiber within us, and you are good to go. I am not lying. I had not practiced much for this section at all, but I only used a logical and an ethical approach, which helped me ace this section in my XAT. So obviously the first point is that we always need to follow a logical approach and an ethical approach, because companies are looking for ethical managers, right? And even colleges are looking for students who follow ethical practices. So obviously this is like the key. Apart from that, we need to look for an option which benefits the majority of players in the question given. And apart from that, we need to go for options with maximum benefits in minimum investment. The investment could be in the form of efforts, labor, money, anything, but we need to look in such a way that it maximizes the benefits of all the actors, and the investment of each and every actor is very minimal. Apart from that, in this section particularly, method of elimination helps a lot.